and a very warm welcome to today's session brought to you by Team Textbook Super Coaching. I hope all of you are doing really well. Today, through the course of this particular lecture, ये जो इस हफ्ते हम लोगों का जैसे हम लोग हर हफ्ते we're trying to dedicate a theme. हम लोगों ने last week John Sutherland को और उनकी books को देखा था जैसे 50 literature ideas या फिर 500 important novels like how to make sure that you're well read by John Sutherland, the history of English literature. और इस entire week हमारा focus is going to be on post-colonial literature and post-colonial thought process. So देरी नहीं करते हुए फटाफट से let's just dive into looking at the entire post-colonial literature understanding. और आज का जो class है ना it's a really different class altogether. Today we're going to be doing diagnostics. ठीक है, आज हम लोग क्या करने वाले हैं? आज हम लोग diagnostics करने वाले हैं. Essentially what do I mean by diagnostic? Diagnostic मतलब कि we'll try to evaluate और बहुत ही simple quiz and tell just the writer and their works, right? Basically the work and con writer here, because of late what we've seen is a pattern that questions from say feminism, questions from चाहे वो pattern differently evolve होता रहे, that's a different thing, but questions related to cultural studies, post colonialism, ये important areas से आपके definitely questions आए हैं, they have been asked altogether. So today is, like I said, is a kind of a diagnostic test. आज के इस particular diagnostic test में हम लोग क्या करने वाले हैं? We will be evaluating, we'll be seeing कि आपकी जो knowledge है about post colonialism वो कितनी है. So it will be like a sort of a diagnostic test for all of you, right? So we're going to be diagnosing and there are over 50, right? There are over 50 terms diagnostic we'll be taking. ये दो parts में हम diagnostic लेंगे. आज हम कुल 50 important works को cover करेंगे and these are just works in order to ensure that we are able to understand whether we have any knowledge about these terms, right? For instance, of late आपका Trinity Menaha हो गया या Gloria Azindola हो गए. So all of these post-colonial critics have started getting a lot of mention in majority of your exams as well, right? Good evening, Simar Taran. Simtara was there, before me also. Balkishan Kasturi, Sonali, Anjali, Dominator, Tehseen, Jahan, Ethereal, Satyendra. तो आप लोग प्लीज इनके नोट्स को अच्छी तरह से कंपाइल कर लीजिएगा, बिकॉज पोस्ट कॉलोनियलिज्म इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू बी वेरी हैंडी फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू. आप जिस भी यूनिवर्सिटी में असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर भी बनेंगे you will have to actually teach a course on post-colonialism and post-colonial discussions बहुत ज़्यादा common हो गई है. So colleges के अंदर आपको जो आपके FDP programs होते हैं, faculty development programs जो आप लोग जाएंगे, या जो आपके कोई भी और तरह के conclaves conferences रखी जाती हैं, तो उनमें post-colonial literature का definitely discussion होता है, mention होता है. So it is always a good idea for you to actually know more about this thought process overall. तो ये चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा important है. तो 100 वर्क्स हैं जिनको हम दो पार्ट्स में करेंगे. आज 50 इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क हम कर रहे हैं एंड लाइक आई सेड इट्स जस्ट अ डायग्नोस्टिक. ठीक है, तो 50 क्वेश्चंस हम लोग करेंगे आज, राइट? सो फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर आपका इमेजिन टोटल 100 है आपका, यू विल आल्सो बी राइटिंग योर स्कोर्स एंड लेटिंग अस नो अबाउट द स्कोर्स. सो 50 क्वेश्चंस वी आर गोइंग टू बी डूइंग, राइट? सो आप इसका हाफ कर सकते हैं. सो यू कैन रफली डू योर मैथ करेक्टली एंड यू कैन जस्ट ट्राई एंड मेक श्योर दैट यू, of course 75 is not divisible, 75 is not divisible by 2, लेकिन approximately if you're going to be looking at it, so some 33 questions अगर आपके सही आते हैं out of 50, so you are amazing. Okay, if you are getting say about 25 questions right, that means you are great, because आज हम 50 questions को diagnostic कर रहे हैं. If you're getting say roughly about 12 to 13 questions right out of 50, it is considered to be like good altogether. और अगर आपके 5, that means अगर आपके 2 या 3 से कम आए हैं तो obviously it's really worrisome, and 2 to 3 भी आए हैं तो you should definitely make sure that you're certainly attending all the sessions that we are having this entire week for you. Okay, good evening Satyendra, Monica, good evening everyone, good evening. तो जल्दी से स्टार्ट करते हैं. दिस इज योर फर्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क दैट इज कमिंग. हु इज द राइटर ऑफ द ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग? द ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग, ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग किसने लिखा है? ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग, हु इज द राइटर हु इज रिटन ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग? ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग, ओकेजन फॉर स्पीकिंग किसने लिखा है? Who is the writer who's written occasion for speaking? Quickly tell me. And also it'd be great if you can tell me negritude and nativism किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's written negritude and nativism? Negritude and nativism किसने लिखा है? Negritude and nativism किसने लिखा है? And who has written the occasion for speaking? The occasion for speaking and negritude and nativism. Negritude and nativism. चलिए जल्दी से बताइए. At least try this out. No kasturi, that's not the correct answer. So Pan Ahluwalia has written negritude and nativism. ठीक है, इसको साथ साथ में आप लिखते भी जाइएगा. Alright, साथ साथ में just make sure that you are making a note of this. Pan Ahluwalia has written negritude and nativism, and the occasion for speaking is by George Lamming. George Lamming is writing the occasion for speaking. अभी आगे आने वाले कोर्स के अंदर, like I said, today is just a mere diagnostic. इस पूरे हफ्ते हम लोग important critics, important postcolonial writers, subaltern studies, ये सारी की सारी चीजें करेंगे. But today we are actually taking a sort of a diagnostic for all of you. Okay. Alright, the economy of Manichaean allegory. The economy of Manichaean allegory. ये किसने लिखा है? And there ain't no black in the Union Jack. There ain't no black in the Union Jack. ये किसने लिखा है? These are all very important works altogether, and I want all of you to try. Good evening, Supratim. Good evening. Good evening. चलिए जल्दी से बताइए. The economy of Manichaean allegory. मैंने वैसे Instagram पे भी इसका एक short डाला था last year. I don't know how many of you saw that. There ain't no black, right, in the Union Jack. There ain't no black. ये किसने लिखा है? Who's written? There ain't no black. There ain't no black in the Union Jack. There ain't no black in the Union Jack. In the Union Jack. Union Jack जो आपका flag है, right? There ain't no Jack in the Union Jack. There ain't no black in the Union Jack. So quickly try and tell us. So please remember, this is Paul Gilroy. Okay, Paul Gilroy has written There Ain't No Black in the Union Jack. This is a work that is written by Paul Gilroy. Okay, ये work किसने लिखा है? This is a work that is coming from the pen of Paul Gilroy. Okay, ये कौन लिख रहा है? Who's the writer who's writing this particular work? Paul Gilroy is writing There Ain't No Black in the Union Jack. Right? There ain't no black in the Union Jack. This is a work that is written by Paul Gilroy. So Paul Gilroy is writing this particular work. All of you should be aware about it. And Abdul Jan Muhammad के बारे में I had talked about also. So the economy of Manichaean allegory. Abdul Jan Muhammad, right? Abdul R. Jan Muhammad. Abdul R. Jan Muhammad is the writer who's writing the economy of Manichaean allegory. ठीक है, so there ain't no black in the Union Jack. Paul Gilroy is the right answer. The economy of Manichaean allegory is by Abdul R. Jan Muhammad. Please remember that. ठीक है, Abdul R. Jan Muhammad is absolutely the right answer over here. So please keep that in mind. Okay. Signs taken for wonders. Signs taken for wonders. ये किसने लिखा है? Whose writers written signs? Signs taken for wonders. Signs taken for wonders. ये किसने लिखा है? And I also want you to tell me, क्योंकि एक वर्क जो आजकल आपकी एग्जाम में क्रिटिक जो अक्सर पूछी जा रही हैं, and you are getting towards a new consciousness. Towards a new consciousness किसने लिखा है? Towards a new consciousness. Towards a new consciousness. ये किसने लिखा है? Who's written Towards a New Consciousness? Towards a New Consciousness किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's associated with today Towards a New Consciousness? Towards a New Consciousness किसने लिखा है? Okay, Shabna, all these writers, all these critics, we are going to be talking about it. These are, of course, something that we will be discussing. तो इस पूरे के पूरे वीक के लिए आपकी 2-3 बुक्स हैं. I'll make a quick video also for all of you to help you understand that which are these books that you should definitely consider. आप उनको एक बार देख सकते हैं, ठीक है? Okay, Signs Taken for Wonders, Signs Taken for Wonders, जल्दी बताइए. And Towards a New Consciousness. Towards a New Consciousness, very important. Gloria Azindola, right? So this is something that you should keep that in mind, because a lot of times, you are getting these questions that are coming, okay? And you all need to make sure Gloria Azindola is writing Towards a New Consciousness. And Signs Taken for Wonders is by Homi K. Bhava. Right, Baba is writing. Homi K. Baba, very important, considered to be one of the triumvirate, right? Holy triumvirate of postcolonialism किसको कहा जाता है? Said, Spivak and Baba को, right? They are famously called as the holy triumvirate of postcolonial studies altogether. जैसे आपका holy Italian triumvirate, जब हम European literature को देख रहे थे, what did we say? Petrarch, Boccaccio, Dante are there, right? So again, you will have to keep that in mind. So please remember all of these works that are coming in. They're all, of course, important. Okay. Problems in current theories of colonial discourse. ये किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's written Problems in current theories of colonial discourse? Quickly tell us. I'm able to see a lot of us are not getting most of these correct. So this is a little concerning. So please try and at least answer this. ठीक है. So far we have looked at the economy of Manichaean allegory, Abdul R. Jan Muhammad. I hope you were clear about it. Occasion for speaking, George Lamming. तो ये सारे important works हैं. Science taken for wonders, Homi ke Baba. Homi ke Baba is the writer who's writing it. Very important person is writing this work. Problems in current theories of colonial discourse. बहुत ही important writer हैं. Does anybody know? It's not Edward Said. So again, please understand that of course Edward Said's Orientalism or Frantz Fanon writing about the psychological impact of colonialism ये सब important है, लेकिन अब आपका net जो है वो swiftly forward move कर रहा है and you're getting these kind of questions as well that you'll have to be fully prepared about, right? ये आपको fully prepared रहना है. This is Benita Perry. ठीक है. Who's the writer? Benita Perry. Problems in current theories of colonial discourse किसने लिखा है? This is a work written by Benita Perry. Benita Perry is writing this particular work. ठीक है. तो ये थोड़ा सा आपको पता होना चाहिए. You should be able to answer these questions overall. You shouldn't really go wrong with these questions at all. ठीक है. So who's writing this? Benita Perry is the one who's writing this, and you'll all have to make a note of it. You'll all have to remember this as well. Moving on to the next, the scramble for post-colonialism. The scramble for post-colonialism. The scramble for post-colonialism, the rhetoric of English India भी बताइएगा. This is also a very important work. The rhetoric of English India. The rhetoric of English India. I think ये मैंने include भी किया है. The rhetoric of English India. The rhetoric of English India. The rhetoric of English India. जल्दी बताइए ये भी किसने लिखा है? The scramble for post-colonialism किसने लिखा है? Scramble for post-colonialism. Have you heard about a critic called Stephen Sleman? Stephen Sleman. Stephen Sleman. ये कुछ लोगों के courses में भी include होता है ये part. Stephen Sleman, right? And this is Sarah Soleri. Very important. Sarah Soleri also आपके set exams वगैरह में भी पूछे जाते हैं. Sarah Soleri. The rhetoric of English India, right? So the rhetoric of English India is by Sarah Soleri. The scramble for post-colonialism, right? This is by Stephen Sleman. स्टीवन स्लेमन इज द वन. स्क्रैम्बल फॉर अफ्रीका से वहां से स्टार्ट हुआ था. याद है उन्होंने अफ्रीका का बाइफिकेशन कैसे किया था? दे जस्ट सैट विद द मैप ऑफ अफ्रीका एंड पेपर कटिंग. अफ्रीका क्यों कहा गया था? दे जस्ट कट द पेपर एंड दे सेड ये आपका टेरिटरी है, ये पोर्चुगीज का टेरिटरी है, ये यू नो दिस इज द टेरिटरी फॉर द फ्रेंच, ये इंग्लिश का टेरिटरी है. दिस इज हाउ दे एक्चुअली सैट एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड स्क्रैम्बल फॉर अफ्रीका. और वहीं से स्क्रैम्बल फॉर पोस्ट colonialism, स्टीफन स्लेमन is the one who's writing this. ठीक है. So all of these critics, you know, your George Lamming, Benita Perry, Sarah Soleri, Gloria Azendola, all of these are very important post-colonial critics जो आपके fingertips पे होने चाहिए, because it was like, you know, your parents' generation which should have known about Edward Said, Spivak and Baba. You have to recreate on that. जैसे आज में we were talking about it, right? Remember who's the pioneer foundation batch की class में what were we talking about? Who's the father of liberal classicism? Who's the father of English criticism? Who's the father who's actually trying to justify tragicomedy? That's John Dryden. Right? और जॉन ड्राइडन जो है the way that he's writing, we all need to be a little more aware about it. ठीक है. तो ये चीजें important है. Don't take them for granted. Colonialism and culture. Colonialism and culture. Who's written Colonialism and culture? Colonialism and culture. ये किसने वर्क लिखा है? Of course सबको पता होगा. National culture फ्रांस फैनो ने लिखा है. Like white skin black mask सबको पता होगा. National culture किसने लिखा है? फ्रांस फैनो ने. National culture is a work by Frantz Fanon. Everybody will know these things that, you know, Imagine Community, Benedict Anderson. But ये सारे के बाद भी you will have to, you know more about it. Very good, Supratim. Colonialism and culture is a work written by, this is by Nicholas B. Dirks. Nicholas D. Burks, right? So Nicholas B. Dirks, I'll just put my this thing over here so that you'll be able to see it a little better, right? Colonialism and culture. This is a work that is coming by Nicholas B. Dirks, right? Nicholas B. Dirks. So that is important for you to keep in mind. Okay, nature of things, arrested decolonization and critical theory. किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's writing this? Again, a very important person. Right? Again, अच्छा एक ना networks of resistance भी work है. Who's writing networks of resistance? Who's writing networks of resistance? Who's the writer who's associated with networks of resistance? Who's the writer who's written networks of resistance? Networks of resistance किसका work है? Who's the writer who's written networks of resistance? Networks of resistance किसने लिखा है? Who's written networks of resistance? This also, please remember it. Please keep that in mind. This is Bohemer that we are talking about, right? This is Bohemer that we are talking about. LK Bohemer. Okay, LK Bohemer. LK Bohemer है ये. LK Bohemer networks of resistance. ठीक है? LK Bohemer. LK Bohemer networks of resistance लिख रहे हैं. ठीक है? And the nature of things is a very important work by Giffio, right? Giffio is the one. Please इसको याद रखिएगा. Biodine Giffio. Biodine Giffio is writing the nature of things. इसका सबटाइटल क्या है? Arrested decolonization and critical theory. Arrested decolonization and critical theory. Right? Arrested decolonization and critical theory. The nature of things. तो जब आपको लगता है कि कुछ unheard post-colonial critics आ रहे हैं, that's wrong because you are able to see that these post-colonial critics are actually very important because they try to tell you. और हम लोग इनको इन क्लासेस में we'll actually bifurcate that कि कौन nationalism के बारे में बोल रहा है, कौन universality and anti-essentialism के बारे में बोल रहा है, कौन hybridity के बारे में बोल रहा है. There are various themes जो हम आगे आने वाली क्लासेस में एक्सप्लोर करेंगे और हर एक क्रिटिक को उस पर्टिकुलर कैटेगरी वाइज पढ़ेंगे along with looking at literary things. The Intimacy of Tyranny, ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है. Who's written The Intimacy of Tyranny? The Intimacy of Tyranny किसने लिखा है? The Intimacy of Tyranny is a work written by. The Intimacy of Tyranny is a work written by. The Intimacy of Tyranny, ये जो आपका वर्क है ये किसने लिखा है? Actually Membe, right? Actually Membe is writing the Intimacy of Tyranny. तो ये भी again, you know, when you are able to look at your post-colonial readers, वैसे post-colonial reader हम लोग देखेंगे भी, right? So you will all be able to look at, you will all be able to see, and it is important. अगर ये वाली लिस्ट भी आज वाली क्लास और ये जो पूरे के पूरे क्लासेस में आप पोस्ट कॉलोनियल राइटर्स की जो लिस्ट को भी अच्छी तरह से एक बार गो थ्रू करेंगे, यू विल बी एबल टू सी अ कंसिडरेबल इंप्रूवमेंट इन योर ओवरऑल अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ पोस्ट कॉलोनियलिज्म. फिर जो क्वेश्चंस आपको दिखेंगे वो आपको डिफिकल्ट नहीं लगेंगे, राइट? यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू फाइंड देम एब्सोल्युटली डिफिकल्ट. ओके, दिस इज एक्चुअली अ वेरी ब्यूटिफुली रिटन वर्क ऑल टुगेदर, and this is your heroic ethnocentrism, the idea of universality in literature, right? ये किसने लिखा है? Who has written heroic ethnocentrism, the idea of universality in literature? By the way, colonialist criticism Chinua Achebe ने लिखा है. Colonialist criticism Chinua Achebe ने लिखा है. Heroic ethnocentrism, the idea of universality in literature, ये किसने लिखा है? Charles Larson. Okay, this is a work written by Charles Larson. मुझे तो लग रहा है आप सब लोगों को बाकी की क्लासेस डेफिनेटली अटेंड करनी चाहिए. हाँ, सो एनीवे, heroic ethnocentrism. सी हमारे कोर्सेज में अब जो आपका पीएचडी का कोर्स फेयर भी आ जाता है, इसमें जो पोस्ट कॉलोनियल रीडर्स मैंडेटरी हैं, ये सारे के सारे मोस्टली पीएचडी स्कॉलर्स को पता होते हैं, राइट? सो चार्ल्स लार्सन, बेनीता पेरी, ऑल ऑफ दीज लाइक निकोलस बी डर्क्स, स्टीवन स्लेमन, ये सारे के सारे राइटर्स you would be able to see that, you know, they're constantly being asked. So of course Bill Ashcroft, Empire Writing Back, Helen Triffin, ये सारे writers of course ये सबको पता होंगे, right? आनिया लुम्बा. लेकिन ये जो नए वाले हैं, you will also have to know them. Western mathematics, the secret weapon of cultural imperialism. Western mathematics. Remember, we had Aryabhatta. We also had the Vedic math concepts altogether. But Western mathematics, the secret weapon of cultural imperialism. Beautiful work that we are able to see. Okay, beautiful work that we are all able to look at over here that comes in. Okay, and so Alan J. Bishop has written this work. Okay, this work is written by Alan J. Bishop. I'll come this side so that you'll be able to see this work a little better. So this is a work written by Alan J. Bishop. Alan J. Bishop is the one who's writing this particular work over here. So please keep that in mind because, you know, a lot of times जब आपका इस तरह के questions आ रहे हैं, you will have to recollect. There's no need to mug up automatically. The more you're going to be reading on these writers, the better you will be able to look at. Okay, he's a Cameroonian historian, Ligi, right? Membe is a Cameroonian historian altogether. Okay, he was influenced by Foucault, Hannah Artende, also in cultural studies. We'll be looking at that. So he's a Cameroonian over here. इन्होंने necropolitics, काफी सारे और works भी लिखे हैं. You can actually explore his writings as well and take a look at it. Okay. So Western mathematics, I hope it is clear to everybody. Western mathematics, Jameson's rhetoric of otherness and national allegory. जल्दी बताइए. Jameson's rhetoric of otherness and national allegory. Jameson's rhetoric of otherness and national allegory. Jameson's rhetoric of otherness and national allegory. चलिए जल्दी बताइए. Yes, the story and the thing is you need to build from here, right? ये सारे के सारे तभी I gave you the scorecard key also 50-50. We'll be looking at that. Jameson's rhetoric of otherness and national allegory. This is this person you know. This person you know. So it's not that all of them are new names. A lot of them are कि आपने नहीं भी पढ़ा है. जैसे George Fleming, I'm sure you knew, or Ejaz Ahmed. You surely this is actually Ejaz Ahmed. Okay, I'm sure you heard about Ejaz Ahmed. This is a work by Ejaz Ahmed. Ejaz Ahmed is writing Jameson's rhetoric and otherness. ठीक है? तो ये जो वर्क है you can actually even write it down. So this particular work, Jameson's rhetoric and otherness of the national allegory, ये किसने लिखा है? This is a work that is coming from the pen of Ejaz Ahmed. I'm sure you must have heard about Ejaz Ahmed. Some of you will be having it also. The critique of Eurocentrism. The critique of Eurocentrism. ये किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's written the critique of Eurocentrism? Western mathematics, we are clear. Alan G. Bishop. Alan G. Bishop is writing Western mathematics, right? Alan G. Bishop is the one who's writing this. The critique of Eurocentrism. The critique of Eurocentrism. The critique of Eurocentrism. Who's the writer who's writing the critique of Eurocentrism? Please quickly tell us who's the one who's writing the critique of Eurocentrism. So here you will have to keep in mind, right? Here you will have to keep in mind the names properly. Tisane Serequer-Barhan, right, is the one who's writing the critique of Eurocentrism. Right? This is Strequeberhan. Okay. So Tisane Serequer-Barhan is writing the critique of Eurocentrism, unsettling the empire resistance theory for the second world, right? So quickly बताइए, what is the correct answer over here? Unsettling the empire resistance theory for the second world. Unsettling the empire resistance theory for the second world. Who's writing this? This is again a thinker we just did. If I give you a hint, remember the scramble for post-colonialism किसने लिखा है? Remember अभी मैंने आपको बताया था the scramble for post-colonialism किसने लिखा है? That means अभी आप notes भी नहीं बना रहे हैं, right? You are not even making the notes. Remember we just did this, the scramble, right? We just talked about it, the scramble for post-colonialism. We just spoke about it, the scramble for post-colonialism. Who's the writer who's writing the scramble for post-colonialism? Stephen Sluman. Excellent, Inayat. Excellent, Inayat. Inayat got it right. Inayat Wahni got it absolutely correct. Okay, very good. Aprajita also got it right. Very good. So at least अब आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि you will have to keep in mind and automatically. So unsettling the empire resistance theory for the Second World War. This is Stephen Sluman. Okay, the rhetoric of English India. अभी मैंने आपको बताया भी था. Again, if you were paying attention, you will get this right. The rhetoric of English India. The rhetoric of English India. The rhetoric of English India. किसने लिखा है? The rhetoric of English India. Who's the writer who's writing this? The rhetoric of English India. We just did it. I just told you also. That means we are not making running notes. This should have just gone back and you should have got it. Sarah Saleri, excellent, Aprajita. Good job done. I think you're writing she's doing a very good job when it comes to writing running notes. Excellent. Very proud of you. Very nice. That's great. Okay. That's great. So I hope we are clear about it. Rhetoric of English India किसने लिखा है? We were talking also about it. Sarah Saleri. Remember, we were just making you write also. Sarah Saleri is the one who's writing the rhetoric of English in English India. Colonialism, racism, and repression. Colonialism, racism, and repression. There are two people who are writing this particular work. There are two people who are writing this work. One is Robert Stam, and the other, if you can tell me, one is Robert Stam. One person is Robert Stam. One person is Robert Stamp. Can you tell me the name of the other person? The other person is Louis Spence. Okay, it is Louis Spence that we are talking about. It is Louis Spence, right? Louis Spence, Robert Stamp, colonialism, racism, and repression. Colonialism, racism, and repression. Okay, networks of resistance. Networks of resistance. Networks of resistance किसने लिखा है? Networks of resistance. No worries, Monica, that's okay. Networks of resistance. I just told you this also. अभी अभी हम लोगों ने करा था networks of resistance. I just told you that. Remember? Elke Bohemer. Elke Bohemer. I just told you about it. That means we are not writing the notes also. हम लोग notes भी नहीं लिख रहे हैं. Elke Bohemer. Elke Bohemer is writing the networks of resistance. Network of resistance. Please, थोड़ा सा remember that. Nationalism as a problem. Nationalism as a problem. Nationalism as a problem. This person you would be knowing. Okay, if I say his initials are PC, if I give you the biggest hint, his initials are PC. Now, can you tell me? And this writer has been asked also in your NET exam. Writer has been asked. Nationalism as a problem. तो हमें बेसिक्स ऑफ पोस्ट कलोनियलिज्म भी अच्छी तरह से कवर करना पड़ेगा. पीसी चिनुआ एक्चुअली हो जाएगा. I think PC, Priyanka Chopra type PC. It's Partha Chatterjee, okay? Partha Chatterjee. तो ये भी अगर हमें नहीं आ रहा था तो कम से कम जो मैंने हिंट दिया था कि पीसी से उसके इनिशियल्स हैं तो आपको ये थोड़ा सा तो याद आ जाना चाहिए था. ये इतना बुरा हाल नहीं होना चाहिए था. तो दिस इज पार्था चैटर्जी, राइट? दिस इज पार्था चैटर्जी. पार्था चैटर्जी किसे अनायत वानी ने दिया नेशनलिज्म एज अ प्रॉब्लम. ओके, नेशनलिज्म एज अ प्रॉब्लम. The national longing for form, basically, right? The national longing for form. 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 This is by Timothy Brennan. ठीक है? This is by Timothy Brennan. ये कौन लिख रहा है? This is a work that is coming from the pen of Timothy Brennan. Timothy Brennan is the one who's writing this. ठीक है? Timothy Brennan. Timothy Brennan. This is Brennan. Brennan. Timothy Brennan. National Longing for Form, right? Okay. Dissemination, time, narrative, and the margins of modern nation. जल्दी बताइए. And this person you know, okay? This person you know. He is also giving you the concept of hybridity. अब ये सबका गलत नहीं होना चाहिए. Dissemination, time, narrative, and margins of modern nation. You all know this writer. You all know this writer. He's the one who's also associated with hybridity. Who is this that we're talking about? Please don't get this wrong. This is gonna be heartbreaking. Come on, people. This genuinely. Thank you, Prajita. Thank you so much. Right? Absolutely right. Homi ke Baba. People, what is wrong with everybody? At least Homi ke Baba, Ijaz Ahmad, Spivak, all of these you should be knowing, right? So dissemination, I gave you the biggest hint, hybridity. Dissemination, time, narrative, and margins of modern nation. So Partha Chatterjee, nationalism as a problem, and dissemination, that is time, narrative, and margins of modern nation. This is Homi ke Baba. Please don't go wrong. What is my nation? What is my nation? What is my nation? There are two people who are writing it. What is my nation? So the ish is also written in a way to deconstruct that, right? So when you're talking about this particular work, what are you able to see? That this particular work automatically, if you're going to be reading the original text also, you will be able to see that this is not a typing error, right? This is what is my nation, writing Ireland, colonialism, what is my nation. So what is, who's the writer who's writing this particular work? What ish? So it's the ish is there like this only, okay? Yes, what is the right answer over here? This is David Cairns, okay? This is David Cairns that we are talking about, okay? This is David Cairns, okay? Please remember that. Don't go wrong with this. This is David Cairns and Sean Richards, okay? David Cairns and Sean Richards. Okay, please remember this. This is David Cairns and Sean Richards. Okay, so this is what is my nation. Okay, please remember that. What is my nation? Good evening, Devashish. Good evening. What is my nation? This is by David Cairns and Sean Richards. Okay, all right. Fossil and psyche. Fossil and psyche. Fossil and psyche. We are all conducting a diagnostic right now. Fossil and psyche. Fossil and psyche. There are three people actually, but you can actually remember two of them, Kirsten and Anna. Okay, Kirsten and Anna. So fossil and psyche. This is by Kirsten. So you are having Kirsten Holst, right? Kirsten Holst, as well as Anna Rutherford. Anna Rutherford. Anna Rutherford. ठीक है? Anna Rutherford, Fossil and Psyche, Fossil and Psyche, ठीक है? तो ये भी आप याद रखिएगा. Named for Victoria, Queen of England. Named for Victoria, Queen of England. This you've already, some of you have written in the chat box. The writer who said that, in his books you can actually see characters from the streets of Africa. Quickly tell us, he's also taking the title, remember, The Antilles of Savannah, Things Fall Apart. Now, this is the biggest hint that I can give you. Named for Victoria, Queen of England. Named for Victoria, Queen of England. Chinua Achebe. Okay, ये तो सही आना चाहिए था. This is Chinua Achebe. Okay, this is Chinua Achebe. Achebe is the one who's writing. So please don't go wrong with these easy ones, right? Don't go wrong with these easy ones altogether. Marvelous realism, the way out of negritude. 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 This is by Michelle Dash. Okay. This is a work that is coming from the pen of Michelle Dash. Okay. Michelle Dash. Marvelous realism, the way out of negritude. Creolization in Jamaica. Creolization in Jamaica. Creolization in Jamaica. Creolization in Jamaica. You know this writer as well. When you are talking about your Caribbean literature, there is always a discussion of this particular writer. There is always a discussion of this particular writer. Creolization in Jamaica. Creolization in Jamaica. किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's written Creolization? This is Brathwaite. Okay. No, not Walcott. But okay, good try, Supratim. Good try, good try. I really appreciate the try. That is right. Okay, but this is Brathwaite that we're talking about. Okay, this is Brathwaite that we are discussing over here. So Edward Kamau Brathwaite is writing Creolization in Jamaica, right? Creolization in Jamaica. Please keep that in mind. Creolization in Jamaica. Okay, this is one of the last. Iske baad 5 quick I'll give you on my own also to just see. So I'll just check that out as well. Cultural diversity and cultural differences. Cultural diversity and cultural differences. Again, I'm giving you a hint. The writer was given the concept of hybridity. We just talked about it, right? We just spoke about it as well. Right? Race, time and revision of modernity. ये भी इन्होंने लिखा है. This is Homi K. Baba. Right? This is Homi K. Baba. So please remember that, okay? Please keep that in mind because a lot of times, we often go wrong with these kind of examples. Okay, now moving on, the fact of blackness. Okay, the fact of blackness. किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's written the fact of blackness? The fact of blackness. Who's the writer who's writing the fact of blackness? The fact of blackness किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer who's written the fact of blackness? The fact of blackness. Yes, everyone. The fact of blackness. Who's the one who's written the fact of blackness? The fact of blackness. The fact of blackness. Franz Fanon. Okay. Excellent. Franz Fanon. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Franz Fanon is the correct answer. The fact of blackness. Okay. This is the fact of blackness. The fact of blackness is a work that is coming from the pen of Fanon. Okay, the fact of blackness is a word coming from the pen of Fanon. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Outlaws of the text. Outlaws of the text. Outlaws of the text. Outlaws of the text किसने लिखा है? ये भी एक important work है. Outlaws. This is outlaws. Look at the sense that is coming. Outlaws of the text. Outlaws of the text. This is also a writer in option. Many times you would have actually seen if you would have seen it. Okay. And इसके बाद एक दो और हैं. I'll just give you one or two more. Okay. Yes, please quickly tell us. Outlaws of the text. Outlaws of the Text is by Gillian Whitlock. Okay, this is by Gillian Whitlock. Who's writing this? Gillian Whitlock is writing it. Okay, who's writing it? Gillian Whitlock is writing. Gillian Whitlock is writing Outlaws of the Text. Outlaws of the Text is by Gillian Whitlock. Gillian Whitlock is the writer who's writing it. Allegories of Atlas के नॉर्थ पार्ट को क्यों बोला जाता है? वाई इज इट नॉर्थ एंड साउथ? एलिगरीज ऑफ एटलस, allegories of Atlas, very important word. Allegories of Atlas, allegories of Atlas. Rabasa, Jos Rabasa. Okay, host Rabasa. So please remember that Rabasa, host Rabasa. Host Rabasa is there. And last question for you today, right? There are two important questions that I'm just going to be asking you quickly. Okay, one is relaxification. Okay, so this is relaxification. Who has written this? Okay, who's the writer who's written relaxification? So when you're looking at it, who is the writer who's associated with relaxification? Relaxification, relaxification, relaxification कौन लिख रहा है? Who's writing relaxification? Relaxification. Chantal Zabus. Chantal Zabus. Who's writing relaxification? Please remember that. Chantal Zabus. Chantal Zabus. Chantal Zabus. Okay. Chantal Zabus is writing relaxification. Relaxification. Relaxification is a work written by Chantal Zabus. I'll give you one more quick question because to just leave you out. So this is a work called Language and Transformation. I'm sure you know the writer. Language and Transformation. Remember, this writer is one of the writers who's written Empire Writes Back. Okay, editor of the Empire Writes Back. So Language and Transformation. Language and Transformation. Language and Transformation. So relaxification. Chantal Zabus is there. Chantal Zabus is coming. And then language and transformation किसने लिखा है? Who's the writer writing language and transformation? No, Brathwaite is Monica not associated with Empire Writes Back. Remember, Bill Ashcroft is there. Bill Ashcroft is there. If you are able to recollect that, right? If you are able to recollect that, we have Bill Ashcroft. We are having Bill Ashcroft, right? We are having Bill Ashcroft. You shouldn't go wrong with this, okay? You shouldn't go wrong with this at all. So, ये थोड़ा सा please इसको याद रखिएगा. And please keep that in mind. So with this, I will of course be making sure I'll give you one or two more questions quickly, but I hope you're understanding कि the understanding that we have, और इसमें अभी बहुत सारे और writers हैं. देखो जैसे everybody will know कि Muse of History किसने लिखा है, ठीक है? Everybody will know Muse of History किसने लिखा है. That's by Derek Walcott. I hope you remember. So when we are talking about works like The Muse of History, ठीक है? जब हम इस तरह के works को देखते हैं, The Muse of History, everybody will know that such works are written by whom. So everybody will know this is Derek Walcott that we are talking about, right? This is Derek Walcott that we are talking about. So everybody will be aware about it. But you should also know about Spatial History by Paul Carter. Spatial History by Paul Carter. ठीक है, आपको ये भी पता होना चाहिए. Spatial History by Paul Carter. Spatial History by Paul Carter, because even they are talking about a very similar theme, right? या फिर The Limbo Gateway. The Limbo Gateway, Harris is writing it, right? So The Muse of History, Spatial History, Paul Carter is writing this particular work. The Limbo Gateway, right? The limbo gateway, right? The limbo gateway कौन लिख रहा है? Limbo gateway is Wilson Harris. Limbo gateway, Wilson Harris is writing it. Okay, तो ये आपको थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, because everybody will know Derek Walcott's The Muse of History. The Muse of History everybody will know, or everybody will know Postcoloniality and the Artifice of History. Who's writing Postcoloniality and the Artifice of History? You all would be probably, who's writing this particular work? Postcoloniality and the Artifice of History, and the artifice of history. Who's writing this particular work? Postcoloniality and the Artifice of History. ये कौन लिख रहा है? Who's the writer who's writing Postcoloniality and the Artifice of History? Who's writing this? Okay, no worries. That's perfectly all right. Who's writing this? Wilson Harris. Okay, Wilson Harris is writing this. So Wilson Harris, Derek Walcott, ये सब फिर भी बता देंगे, but आपको बाकी भी पता होने चाहिए that what is happening. Okay, you should also know decolonizing the map, Graham Huggen, decolonizing the map, just that is something which is very important. Decolonizing the map, right? That you are talking about colonial boundaries that were actually created. So Graham, right? Graham Huggen. So Graham Huggen, decolonizing the map, Graham Huggen. So ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. There are a couple of others, right? So we will, like I told you, this is the first part of your diagnostic. We will cover एक और second separate part. Do let me know in the comment section, out of like I think 50 odd works, you can actually count how many I've written. I'm sure they've definitely been more than 40-45 easily. So देखिए, tell your scorecard अगर आपके 2 से 3 से भी नहीं आ रहे हैं, that means definitely we'll have to work together to build your knowledge on post-colonialism, because all of these writers like soft soaping empire and McClintock, ये सारे के सारे हम next class में भी we'll talk about it, ठीक है? So you all need to know about that, you all need to remember that, just like allegories of Atlas, Jose Rabassa हो गया, या फिर we saw relaxification by Chantal Zabus. ये सब आपको थोड़े से पता होने चाहिए, right? You should be more aware about these writers overall. Take a tour of these writers, try and take a look at all of these, right? Try to see most of these writers and what are they writing, okay? Because when you're talking about writers like Chantal Zabos, right? She's a fantastic person who's associated with Department of English also at universities, and tries to explore gender studies and post-coloniality overall, professor of post-colonial literature as well. Okay, तो ये सब आपको पता होना चाहिए. You should know about what these writers are actually doing, Chantal Zabus, or your writers like Jose Rabassa, okay? So please keep that in mind, please remember that overall. And in case if there are any other doubts that you are having, please feel free to put it in the comment section also. We will of course take it forward from there, or otherwise you can write an email to me on neerja.raheja.faculty@testbook.com. I will catch up with all of you in the next class, or अगर कोई और doubt या problem हो तो please do keep us posted about that. Fine. Thanks so much everyone for joining. In case if you're having any other doubts, please do keep us posted about that. Okay. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next class. Thank you. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you. Thank you.